There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. And I'm going to test this and see, Jim. And Rochelle, can you hear me?
I'm here. Hello, everybody. I'm here. And thank you, Jim, for being here. It is such an honor to have driven an hour away and find service to be here with you. I am very excited for this show. So welcome. And how are you?
I'm doing well, Rochelle. Thank you very much. I am so glad to be here on the show.
And Jim, I got to tell you, she is sitting in her car next to a potato farm in Colorado that she had to drive an hour to get service because she is that dedicated. So, Rochelle, thank you so much for doing this.
Of course,
That's
of course.
awesome.
And thank you even more, Jim, for being here.
You bet. I hope I'm more exciting than the potato farm.
Oh, 100%. I have to tell you, you can only learn so much from a farm and a potato, but from Jim, I think there's some special things.
You can only learn so.
I like it.
You can only learn so much from a potato farmer. I don't know.
I think there's some wisdom there.
I think so. But that's life. That's the way it goes. And sometimes it works. And sometimes you need a tranquilizer. I don't know. But Jim, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. This is Jim Heid. He is a life coach. And now, what would you call if I had to call you something other than Jim and as a coach, what would I call you specifically?
Wow. I like to think of myself as a life navigator.
That's even better. I like that. Because and your website, if people want to follow along, is repurposementllc.com. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. That'll get you there. I'm in the process of doing a little rebranding, but the whole idea is that I help people find new purpose in the same old life. A lot of people think they need a new job to be satisfied if they're not satisfied in their current job. But if I help them figure out who they really are and align their life with their values, they can find a lot of satisfaction in the same old life, the same old job, with a new person. So finding your purpose to repurpose your life and help you find meaning in life and career.
Jim, and I gotta tell you this story because my son and I had this conversation just last night. So I'm glad you're here. I hope he's listening and first of all, Michelle, are you still with us?
I'm still here. Don't get sick of me yet.
Won't get sick of you at all. But okay, he was rather than going to college, he went to a trade school and he became a diesel mechanic. And over the last 15 years, he was a diesel mechanic, and then he worked on cranes, and now he's got a great union job, and he's 37, 36 years old, something like that. And now he's saying to himself, but Dad, is this all I get to do for the rest of my life? And I'm just going to be doing this, and I don't necessarily like the people that I'm working for, although I can't use his name and stuff. And my advice to him was, well, your job pays the bills really quite well, better than you've ever had before. And so maybe you should repurpose your ideals about who you are, what you're doing, and how to live your life in a more meaningful way while keeping the same job. How am I doing so far, Jim?
Exactly. Right. And I mean, there may be more to what he has in himself, and there may be more to what the job has to offer that he's not seeing. So there's a lot to explore there. And but it sounds like he's, hitting that point that some people hit. I would say he's ahead of the curve. You said he's kind of mid 30s. So I would say people hit that point often in their mid 40s, early 50s. So he's ahead of the curve, which is a good sign. But yeah, that's the person I help kind of evaluate things and see what really is the next step.
Because the thing is, when he is at what I would call the top of his profession at where he's at. So there's not a whole lot of upward mobility unless he were to go into management, but then he'd get paid less than what he's doing now, and he'd work more hours and stuff. And so there are lots of negatives and positives, lots of things to weigh. But then when he turns and says, I don't know whether I want to continue to do this, but I don't have any idea what it is that I'm going to do. That's kind of a common thing that people come up with, isn't it?
Yes. It's part of the grass is always greener, but it's also part of I'm not being fulfilled, but I don't have a vision of what fulfillment looks like.
That's the key right there, isn't it? I mean, Brachelle, I know you have a question that you're waiting to ask Jim as well, but that's kind of the thing, isn't it? I don't necessarily like my life, but I don't know how to make my life better and how I'm going to do that. Brachelle, do you know anybody like that?
Kevin, you're so funny. No, actually, I have to admit, Jim, that is me. Um, because it's as time changes and generations change and the world changes, right? I want to bring this into factor, and I'd love your perception on it when it comes to, we talked about fear in our last episode and how to move through that. And I think the opposite of fear is really just your own dedication and how powerful you feel about something. But on the other hand of that, it's more than just discipline, but does it feel right to you? Kevin mentioned how the beginning of the show, yes, I have driven almost an hour away because I would not accept the terms of where I was at, and I found another way to try to be there, although I didn't make it. I'm here with you now. And I think that there's those things that kind of follow along with us in life, and don't you think that maybe a little bit it has to do with trust, not in everything outside of us, but trust in yourself? And when you truly believe in yourself, then somehow, some way, things miraculously kind of just they work out. Is that your experience, Jim?
Well, I think I like the word trust. I think there's some serendipity or God, was involved in this because you and Kevin have both used a word several times, driven. And you mean that as driving in your car. But I would say that you are driven as in you have a drive that pushes you forward because you wanted to be here. So you've got the drive to do what's necessary to take the next step. It sounds like what you're missing is the clarity on what that next step is.
And when it comes to clarity, how do you let me explain it this way, Jim. I'm 26 years old, and sometimes clarity I think that we take for our own perception, right? Will clarity make sense to me in this way? Do you think that there's necessarily a right or wrong reason or meaning for clarity, or do you think it comes to you as it's supposed to be because people are supposed to be different?
Well, definitely people are supposed to be different. But the question of do do people walk into clarity? Does it take some work? Does it just
Yes.
happen?
Yes,
Definitely,
that.
yeah, definitely not just happen. So I do one of my niches, one of my tools is strengths coaching through Clifton Strengths.
Yes, yes.
And just to spark a little interest in it, there's each strength has its good side and its bad side. Clifton himself called them the balconies and the basements. The balcony's the good side. I say that's where you're sitting on your balcony with your bestie drinking a bevy of your choice. Life couldn't get any better. So that's the good side of every talent. And
Right.
every talent has a basement. Basements are full of rats and mold, and they're dark and scary. So those are the downsides of the talent. So
Mhm.
what I did was I made cards describing the balconies and basements of every strength. So instead of a 52 card deck, it's a 68 card deck because there's 34 talents. And I give it to people and I say, okay, pick out 10 to 15 that are you. And it's
Mm.
really interesting because then I'll have them take the assessment, and no one gets all 10 of their top 10. Everyone gets like 70 to 80%, but they
Mhm.
also pick some that are really low. And without doing the assessment, if you just go by the cards that you picked out because that feels like me, you're actually
Yeah.
you're swimming in some really high strengths, but you're also trying to swim in what are really weaknesses. So yeah, so trusting your own assessment is not a good idea.
So who do you trust if you don't trust your own assessment? Do you get somebody like maybe, I know, Jim Hyde to help you figure out your strengths and weaknesses and kind of lead you in the right direction?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Donald
Jim
Clifton
or a
creates,
McDonald.
or McDonald, like as in Ronald McDonald.
As in
No, more
me.
like the
Ah,
Kevin
oh, the
McDonald.
Kevin McDonald. There we go. Yes. So yeah, Clifton made this assessment saying, the whole point of this was to help people engage in what they do well. And he strongly believed when he first brought this out, he only would release your top 5. If you wanted all 34, you had to engage with a coach because he wanted people to not only know what their signature talents are, but to walk through it with someone who can help you make the most of it.
Can we do a little experiment with my friend Rochelle and this program a little bit?
Sure.
Rochelle, do you feel like being a guinea pig today? I mean, you're in a
Oh,
potato
Kevin.
farm.
I think yes, I think one of my lessons here is to not only learn but to teach. So, what do you have in mind?
Well, if you were to, well, let me add, Jim, take it over.
Oh, okay. So, well, what do you see as um, something you are really good at?
Um, I think my top quality and talent that I've learned is I am able to connect to all forms of people in all forms of life. No matter where they are, I kind of meet them there.
Okay. Yeah. So, so that Clifton, you've got achiever, you've got act. I'm going to give them in alphabetical order, but you got achiever, activator, adaptability, analytical, arranger, belief, command, communication. Communication is being able to not just send communication, but also receive. So listening, and it's a two-way street. So that
Yeah.
sounds like a little bit of what you got going on.
Yeah.
Competition, connectedness, being connected. Things are the connectedness. The word picture for that one is a spider web. Everything, if you touch the spider web over in the far left-hand corner, the whole thing's going to ripple.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Jim, the other thing
consistency.
I'll tell you, I think, is I've realized that I'm a person who doesn't care about. I used to be hard on myself for this reason, but I've started to open up to the fact that I'm not good at rules because I want to challenge what is possible. Does that put me in a different frame?
Sure. So, yeah, so some people are total rule followers. That's consistency where everyone has to be treated exactly the same. Um, Others are going to be includers. They're going to find ways to include everyone, even if they don't fit the bill according to the strict rules. So it sounds like you like to involve
Mm-hmm.
everyone. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what I love is that these strengths are in 4 different categories. The categories are executing, as in doing, influencing, as in getting
Mm-hmm.
others to do, relating, and strategic thinking. And even as I talk with people about a specific strength, they'll say, well, but this, as I read about this strength, it doesn't sound a lot like me. Well, that's because right below that in your particular results is something in a totally different domain, which modifies how you show up. So even if you have even if you had the same top 2 as me, you're going to have different lower ones, and they're going to modify. So you and I would be very different, even though we have the same top 2 strengths, or we have similar top strengths.
And Jim, we need to take a break, but
Yeah.
in my experience of Rochelle, I think her number one attribute is she's a connector.
Yeah.
She connects people to each other, whether they
Oh, thanks,
want to be
Kevin.
connected or not. We'll be right back. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. Burchelle is having the day of her life. She is trying to do the shows and running all over greater Colorado and is now sitting in a parking lot next to a potato farm trying to find the internet that'll work. And so, Burchelle, thank you for being here. And Jim, I got to tell you, one of the reasons I called her a connector, and you said it's kind of like a spider web. She's the only person I've ever met that will actually pet a spider. It's like, you've got to be kidding me, and stuff. So
Well,
that's the kind of connector she is. Go ahead, Rochelle.
yeah, Kevin, it's I think it comes from all sources of who we are, yes, humans will fight against everything. People watching this will say, no, 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 there's nothing like humans, but that's what makes us special, right? Because there's the cows and there's the chickens and there's the crickets and there's the ants. And I don't know if you learned about ants, but they're extremely strong for how small they are. And everything has its purpose and everything knows how to connect, but maybe somewhere along the way has been taught that. And as I was trying to rescue a jumping spider yesterday, it would just seem so afraid and it had less of a trust than I've experienced with other insects who, I'm trying to help you, and I'm trying to help you out of this situation, and it kind of wanted to fight that. And Jim, it reminded me of how we do the same thing. I mean, the universe is there, and it's speaking its language, and it's giving us its signs and its signals, and pushing us into our qualities and our talents so that we can learn and use them to become better as we are. But a lot of times we kind of push against that. And I'd love to talk about that. But before we do that, I would also love to jump into Kevin's qualities and see maybe what he has to say about himself. Because Kevin,
Oh
you
no.
carry, I know, isn't it so great? We're ending a Friday with some realism. Um, but Kevin has a purpose here on earth that he knows it will more than he knows is so much greater than what he's been able to create out of this. And I think it's important that if we talk about my qualities, we talk about his as well, because yes, we have so many similarities, but we also have our differences. And that's what makes positive talk be able to be what it is. So I'd love to pull some characteristics out of Kevin, just the same way we did with us, and maybe learn as to why we ignore those signs when they're being shown. Can we do that, Kevin, please?
It's America. You can do anything you want. Whether or not I'm
There
going
you
to
go.
I have
participate
free
is a whole.
will.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
as I kind of alluded to, it sounds like you've got includer going. You wanna include everything, which is good. That's always that is not my strong suit, and I always have to be encouraged to do that. Um, there is a Gallup has a strength called positivity, where people see the good in things and try to move everyone toward that rather than what we see a lot of in this world, which is the negativity. So I think Kevin has a lot of that.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Well, and also, I think I'm a good communicator. I at least I'd better be doing what I'm doing, and
Right.
I'm a good listener. And I am a lover of people. I don't know if that's on the list or not.
But
Y-
Kevin, we talk to so many people, Jim. I have to tell you that like there's qualities that me and Kevin hold as the same, and most of them I'd have to say are quite alike. That's I love how you put that interpretation of us bringing everybody together, but there's also some people who they do their best work behind the scenes so that people like me and Kevin can realize these things. Is that kind of how it works, or am I completely wrong?
Well, there are definitely actually each talent can show up in a one-on-one way or in a team way, and it's really interesting walking people through their talents when there's called talent in action, which is more one-on-one, and there's team power. And so many people don't see their team power because they're a little more introverted, or because they're super high in relational, but they're not high in influencing. And I think people think, when they read, I inspire a team to see the positive in things, or I inspire a team to be more strategic and move forward this way. They don't see that because they don't have those uh, influencing skills or talents. Those are the behind the scenes people. I've heard them called hinge people. When you walk through a door, you notice the door. Is it shabby? Is it solid? But you really don't think much about that really important hardware that's mounted to the door and the wall that moves it so easily. Whether it weighs 100 pounds or 2 pounds, that hinge is very important. So there are people who are very happy and very fulfilled
Yeah.
being the hinge.
But
Absolutely.
they have their part to play just as the rest of us. They're not hidden and bound to their own space, right? Because I feel like yes, me, sometimes I can be the biggest introvert you'll ever meet in your life, and I will I will talk to anybody and I'll relate, but I do have moments, Jim, now that I'm thinking of you saying these things where it's kind of like I relate to this emotion and I feel this thing when it comes to this person. Um, but just because I don't speak about it doesn't mean that I can't make that difference. And for many people who are introverts here that live among us, they're the ones kind of making the biggest difference behind the scenes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, right. So my other hat is for years, I've been a family physician for 30 years. Um, I mean, I see patients in the exam room, but you know what? There are people that take calls. There are people that welcome the patient and take the insurance information. There are people that, there is so much that goes on before and after that visit. All of that is integral to the care that I, as a doctor, provide to the patient. We would always have we would just throw a Christmas party at our place because it was like, you know what? Um, no, you don't
Oh,
need to bring food. You don't need to worry
yeah,
about the cost of the caterer because you all make it possible what I do.
yeah.
So, absolutely, very important and very fulfilling because those are the talents and the skills that you have that make you the right person for that job.
Exactly. Exactly.
It, it is really rare for me to find somebody who
Shh.
relishes the opportunity to be part of the team, to be driving the bus, for lack of a better term, behind the scenes, and that is fulfilling to them rather than being out front saying, look at me, see how cool I am," and stuff. And they're hard to find. I got to tell you, but when you find one, don't let them go because they're gold.
Oh,
Right.
oh, oh, I want to bring this up as you get into what you're about to say, Jim, is the difference between what our purpose is serving compared to our pride. Because I
Mm.
think that's where the line is drawn. Am I wrong?
Well, it's interesting. So, again, we talked about the balconies and basements. I took a class on the strengths, and the perspective of the teacher was that the balconies are the we focus of that talent, and the basements are the me focus. So, absolutely, when I am focused on what can I get from my strengths, I'm living in the basement in the really horrible side of those same talents. When I'm focused on what
Right.
I can do for us, community, spouse, whatever, when I am including others in the use of my talent,
Mhm.
I'm living on the balcony, the positive side.
I agree. Don't you, Kevin?
Yep. And that can be hard to get to.
Yeah.
And at times when you're not prepared and understand it, which is what had Jim. So many of us go through these, and everything that you're talking about, we can point out a bit or a thing, but we don't have a clear understanding of who we are. And also, when you're building a team, and I was just thinking about this while you were talking, as you're building a team, it makes a difference. The makeup of the members that you bring onto your team, that they have different strengths than you do, because if everybody is like Michelle and I that like to be out front and stuff, then nothing happens.
Well, Kevin, you know what's crazy, Jim? I have to tell you that when I joined with Kevin, I didn't think I was an extrovert. And this job maybe taught me that I was. And then there was like, all these confusing feelings. Do I want to be this? Is this the one I want to uphold? Is this who I am? Um, and then I think I just stopped questioning things and I just started living. And then my qualities came to the surface. Is that true for most people, or do they have to kind of find them?
Yeah, I mean, I think some people are lucky. Some people kind of walk into life and have stuff together.
Yeah,
You know,
thank
I'm
God,
going to
Kevin.
use
Thank
a
you.
I'm going to use a medical analogy. So some women, when they start having periods, they just have their first period. They have periods like clockwork. And then when they hit a certain age and they stop having periods and they have no menopause symptoms, they just, they woke up one day, they were in puberty, and they woke up one day and they were in menopause, and life otherwise was no different.
Right.
Other women have a really rocky road starting their periods in their teens, and a really rocky road in their 40s and 50s ending their periods. So there are the lucky ones that kind of know inherently where they're meant to be, and there are those that need to do more work to kind of figure it out.
Does that make sense, Rochelle?
Yeah, 100%. And it goes back into what we started talking about is individuality. We're not here to copy paste each one of each other. And even though we have the same qualities of what we consider to be less or more in the prospect of what we're changing, when we find people that are kind of aligned with that, they teach us, right? It's about learning, Jim. And we talked about this last episode. I know we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about what that was like for you. Did you have a moment in your life that was just like, I am who I am, and if I continue to learn, I can help people not only alike me, but different than me, because we all see a different version of the same thing. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Perfect.
And by the way, we're talking with Jim Heid, and he is in his office in Vancouver. That'd be Vancouver, Washington, and I'm in my studio, and Rochelle is in a field next to a potato farm.
In a thunderstorm. I'm glad you guys can't hear it. It's pretty scary.
You be careful in your car in a thunderstorm. I hope you're next to the building. That's all I got to say.
Oh, yes, Kevin. This is what's important to me, and I promise to protect myself so I can be here. So everybody stay here with us if you're listening in. Me and Jim and Kevin are about to touch points on some beautiful things, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah, being electrocuted is not my idea of you being here, so that's probably not a good thing.
Sure, Kevin.
We'll be right back, and stay with us, everybody.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
The Fire That Doesn't Die by Positive Talk Radio. Success never shows up overnight. It tests you. It breaks you. It asks, how much do you want it and how badly do you believe? Amazon answered that question for 9 long years with no profits, only vision. At Positive Talk Radio, our fight began in 2003. Self-funded, no spotlight, no guarantees, only faith that hope and love can change lives. For over 2 decades now, we've kept showing up, keep speaking light into the darkness. And now, hey, we're still here, stronger, louder, inspiring hearts across the world. Because true greatness isn't measured by how fast you rise, but by how long you refuse to fall. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Rochelle is in her car on a potato farm in Colorado.
But I'm here. Hello.
And she's here. And Jim, I got to ask you, when you talk to people and they're talking about repurposing themselves, my story is pretty simple, actually. When I was 42, I was a district sales manager and all that stuff for a food company. And I didn't feel fulfilled. And I wanted to find out what it was going to be that was going to fulfill me. And lo and behold, I didn't ask for anything specifically, but things just kind of added up for me over time. And I ended up behind the microphone. I've been doing this ever since. We've got a bunch of shows. This is my life that I love. And I love talking to people like you and Rochelle and putting this together and having a great time. But there are other people in my life that said, wait a minute. You're a district sales manager. You got 11 reports and you make a really good living. They got a company car. You want to give all that up to then go to be a broadcaster? They don't make any money. What are you doing? Do you have people that are like that say, but that's my passion. That's what I want to go do? And do you help them do that, or do you talk them out of it, which is what everybody did, including my former wife, which is one of the reasons why, by the way, she's my former wife. But that's a story for another time. So, Jim, what do you think?
Yeah. So, well, in coaching, we firmly believe that the client is the expert. We just we draw out what's already in them. So that is a question more for the client than for me. I don't try to persuade or convince anything. Um, Other than I do try and persuade the client to be as open as possible, be vulnerable, and I just love being able to repeat things, paraphrase what they just said, because people, when we say something in our head, we don't really hear it. And if we say it out loud, sometimes we can hear it, but the other person hears it. And when I just kind of paraphrase what I just heard, people like, I didn't say that. Oh yeah, you did. One lady, I can't remember, it was like, I said, okay, so in the last 5 minutes, I've heard anxious, afraid, nervous, anxious, worried, afraid, nervous, and anxious. She said, I didn't say all those words. I said, yes, you
Yes,
did.
you
And
did.
she stopped and she said, yes, I did. Okay, so you
Oh,
said we were going to talk about this. No, we need
no.
to talk about this instead.
Well, Jim, have you ever had somebody you hear the words they're saying, right? But you hear them from an outside perspective, so you're able to help them ask themselves questions. Maybe they don't frame the right way. Have you, in the same term of, well, I didn't just say that. Me and Kevin go through that every single day. I have to admit that. um, it's the brain change. But have you had people work with you that they talk about how damn good they are at certain things, their talents and their strengths and what they find most purpose in, and then they minimize it, and you kind of reiterate that to say, hey, your talents, they're inside of you, you just maybe are choosing not to recognize it, or how does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it's amazing. They'll say something, and they're not bragging. They're just talking about, well, this, the other day, blah, 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 but I'm no good
Right.
at that. Okay, no,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Hold on, back up. The other day, what happened? Well, this happened. Okay, and then, well, and then this, and I did that. Okay. So tell me again, you're no good at what? Well, I'm no good at, well, but let's go back over this another time so you can hear
Oh,
yourself. And then they're like, so why are we going back over? Do you hear what you're saying about yourself? What am I missing hearing, Jim? And it's like, let me tell you, let me say your words back to you. You said this, 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 this. Yeah. So
yeah.
how did you handle that situation? Well, that situation worked out pretty good. Okay. But I don't do that well
Mm-hmm.
often. Why not? And but then
Mm.
there's like, well, because I wasn't, that wasn't my wife. And when it comes up with my wife, I can't respond like that. Well,
Mm.
you
Yes,
can.
yes.
Why don't you? Because the tension's higher. Okay, so how do we lower the tension?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so
But
people say things positively and negatively about themselves that they just don't hear. And it's fun. The other thing that's really fun is when I ask a question, the coach is not the expert, so we're not supposed to know where the conversation's going. But, Kevin, I'm sure you have conversations. You kind of know, you think you know what the answer is. And I'll ask a question, and the client will make a hard left and go straight uphill. And at the end of the
yeah.
conversation, they were like, that was amazing. How'd you know that I needed to go there? I didn't. You shocked the heck out of me by going there. You knew
Mm.
you needed to go there. I gave you permission to go where you knew you needed to go.
Kevin,
And
doesn't this sound like our conversations?
it really does. But Jim, I got to tell you, and that's why having a coach is so important to and in my mind, everybody. I have a coach. Rochelle has a coach. because you are able to frame it in a way that we actually said it, but we didn't even know that we said it the way we said it, because that's kind of a subconscious thing. We don't even analyze what we said until it gets played back for us, so that we can then see and hear what it is that we actually said, and then determine whether or not we actually meant what we said, or whether we're pretending that, you know what I mean? Because if you don't hear it back from, and it can't be a wife, it can't be a best friend, because they're not going to hurt your feelings. It's got to be somebody who's going to be totally honest with you and to help you get through what you tell them initially that you want to get through. Am I close?
Yes, and another way that shows up is, I'll kind of warn patient or clients. I'll just say, look, 3 or 4 sessions in, this might happen. You come with a topic and we start talking, and I ask a question, and you're going to say something like, "That's exactly where I didn't want to go." So clients know where they should go. They don't want to go there, but I think evidently I'm an okay person, safe person to talk to, because I'll just, okay, you didn't want to go there. Do we need to go there? And I can't remember a client that didn't say, after like a long sigh, they'll be like, yes, we probably need to go there. Okay, so now let's go. Okay, let me re-ask my question. And when I think people, it's like, I want the answer to this question, but I don't want it to be 42. Even though they know it's 42, there's a reason they don't want it to be 42, because they know it's 42, even though they don't want it to be that. And then we coach around that, and it's okay, it is 42. All right, now what do we do with that 42? Well, now that I admit that it's 42, I need to do X with it. Okay. And then, oh, well, yeah, that opens up this. So once I kind of nudge them / give them permission to say, that is what you need to talk about. That is the answer to this. What does that look like? Then all of a sudden things open up, because they're not closed off to it.
Rochelle, does that make sense to you? Uh-oh. I heard some serious thunder in the background. So we'll see. We'll see if she comes back. But that makes perfect sense to me, because we're not honest with ourselves a lot of times. We make excuses for ourselves, or what it is that we believe or don't believe, based upon the story that we've told ourselves or that somebody's told us, which may not have any basis in reality. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. The one client, when I was coaching him, he was talking about how he could play a movie in his brain about all the horrible things that could happen tomorrow, when he knew he had a difficult conversation or whatever. And we started coaching, and at the end of it, he came up with something, and I told him I was going to steal it. He said, you need to interrogate the story that you tell yourself in order to really evaluate the experience you just had.
That's brilliant.
Yes.
And because the story that we tell ourselves is not necessarily, it's sometimes caked in mythology of things that we thought maybe were true, but they weren't really true. Our perception of them was different because of other factors that are going on in ourselves. Is that close?
Yes. And here's another thing that I've learned, which kind of blew my mind. So memories, we think of memory as if we're playing a CD or a cassette tape. When we remember something, we are not in read-only mode. We are in read and write mode. And every time we remember it, we alter it a little. So if you and your partner, business partner, life partner, have the same experience, and you go up, you remember it separately several times and you come back and you argue over the details. That's because you've both rewritten the story several times.
It's amazing how that works. My oldest son, who has a problem with his younger brother, and they don't get along, and so he rewrote the story of how he got into Cub Scouts. He said repeatedly, and I was the Cub Scout master when he was enrolled, so I know this story. We enrolled because of him, the older one. The younger one was too little, and he ended up coming through. But the older one said, "You enrolled us in Cub Scouts so that my younger brother could be in Cub Scouts. It had nothing to do with me." He completely rewrote the story to fit the narrative of you guys were always more favorable to my younger brother than you were to me. And that wasn't even remotely true, but in his mind, it became true. So it didn't matter when I told him that that's not what happened, because he didn't believe it, because he had rewritten that story in his own mind. We do that all the time, don't we?
Yes, I'm the youngest, and I've been told things that I got away with, and this, that, and the other, and yeah. But it's funny because my mom also learned, and she didn't trust me because she says, "I trusted your older brothers and sisters, and then I found out they lied to me, so I'm not going to trust you." I'm like, well, there you go. I mean, they've ruined it for me.
That's exactly right, because what they're now, and parents do that, and they equate one child's behavior with another child's behavior. And I've learned as a parent that our kids are just totally different from each other.
Yes. Yep.
And you as a physician know that, and I'm sure that you've seen 2 or 3 kids from the same family, and they're just completely different human beings.
Yes, especially by the time they've grown up, I've taken care of sisters that I would have never guessed in a million years they were sisters.
Yeah. It's amazing. Now, how long have you been in practice?
30 years.
So you've seen children grow up to be middle-aged people now.
Yeah.
That must be really remarkable to play that big of a role in people's lives.
It is very interesting. It's, because currently I'm only doing women's health, but for most of my career, I did full spectrum family medicine. And it was funny because I would talk with my patients about their family so much, I couldn't honestly remember if I saw their grandkids or if we've just talked about their grandkids. I don't know if they're my patients or if I just know about them because you're my patient, but it didn't matter.
No, and because of your kindness and the person that you are, I if it wasn't 2.5 hours away, and I was a woman, I'd come see you. But I'm not either one of those. I'm not. So we need to take a quick break. Brachelle may have gotten eaten by a thunderstorm, so or a potato farmer. So we will let her go for today. But again, we're talking with Dr. Jim Heid, I would like to say, and he's a coach. And go to his website, which, doctor, your website again is?
repurposementllc.com.
And, repurposement in the middle of your life, because then when we come back, I want to ask Doc if it's true that virtually everybody at one point in life looks at their life and says, okay, why am I here? And what am I really here to do? And go in search of that. We will be right back in 30 seconds. Stay with us. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. In a dark room, a single candle was lit. That tiny flame chased away the shadows, filling the space with hope. Your courage, your kindness, and your light may seem small at times, but it can change someone's entire world. Never underestimate the power you already carry inside. Even the smallest flame can ignite a fire that transforms lives. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. And welcome back, everybody. Jim Heid is our guest, and he is a coach and repurposing your life. At one point in time, after you get done with all the basics, you get done with the school, you get done with the kids, you get done, and they may still be around, but you get done with them a little bit, and you're married, and you're in your middle age somehow, and your life seems incomplete, and you don't know why, and you don't know what you need to do. And sometimes you need to repurpose your life in a positive way, and many times you have no idea how to even approach it. And Jim, that's one of the things that he does really, really well, is he helps you understand who you really are so you can repurpose your life in the best suitable way possible. Have I misstated that at all, Doc?
No, I think you hit it right. You asked before the break, does everyone go through a bit of a crisis or, a questioning period? There are those lucky souls that don't. There are those people that just know from beginning to end and retirement, and they have a plan. But I'd say, like you mentioned, your son in his late 30s, questioning what's going on. I think that's on the early side. Some people, it doesn't happen until retirement. But somewhere in there, it's like, okay, now what? And I knew a person who was a teacher, and when she was going to retire, it's like, what do I do? And my response is everyone has something to retire from, but everyone needs and not everyone has something to retire to. You
Couldn't
gotta
agree more.
have a purpose to get up in the morning, whether you get paid to do it or whether you just get to do it because it's fun and meaningful. We all have to have a reason to get both feet out of bed in the morning.
I had to giggle at my dad when he retired. He was an executive for Nordstrom for 30 years, and he worked, 50, 60 hours a week, and then he retired. And then it was like, okay, now what? And he went through a bunch of different stuff, and my mom and him separated for a period of time because she said, why are you in my house so much? Because you should be at work and stuff. And so eventually what he did is he joined a country club. And here this was his schedule. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. He didn't play on Wednesday. But he'd go to the golf club. He'd get up in the morning, get dressed, and go to the golf club, get a cup of coffee, hang out with the guys for an hour and a half, and then play a round of golf with a bunch of guys, and then go in and play rummy or gin for several hours. And then he would, oh man, it's 5 o'clock. It's time to go home. And it was like a job.
Yeah.
Because he was replacing the paid job with now he was paying to do all of this stuff. But we do that, don't we?
It was funny. My dad used to make fun of all the guys at church, regardless of what they did. All his older male friends went to work for a mortuary, and he made fun of them until he retired. And he was an electronics engineer, and he did some consulting work. And within a year of retirement, he was there working at the mortuary. And I had to laugh. I'm like, you laughed at all your other friends, but now you're doing it. And he drove the limo, and he loved it because being a spiritual man, he loved having conversations with those that had just lost someone about death and what's on the other side, and just helping people find meaning in the loss. And so he loved it. It was just something fun and meaningful for him to do. And yes, and to get him out of the house, because my wife had my mom had a similar attitude, like, the house is mine, you can retire, you just can't be here 24/7.
And if you start organizing the spice rack, you're in big trouble, kid.
Yeah.
And we all go through that, and that's when I decided that I'm not retiring. I had to give up the job that I had because I tore my rotator cuff and all that kind of stuff, and couldn't drive a bus anymore. But so this is my job, and this is what I do, and I will do this until somebody comes and picks me up and takes me to the mortuary.
That's what I love about coaching. I said at the beginning, I'm a life navigator. I navigate health as a physician. I will do that for, as long as it's safe for me to do that and I'm finding fulfillment in that. I think coaching will be something I do much longer because it is fun. It is passing on wisdom, and yeah, and it's something I can do remotely from anywhere. And I could be sitting at the beach, sipping a Mai Tai and coach. Um, Although I don't see myself sitting at the beach for every day on my retirement. I don't think I could do the country club every day. But
No, I couldn't either. And the sad thing about that was he was a really, really good golfer when he was young. And as he got older and his skills began to deteriorate because of age and maladies and that kind of stuff, he no longer was the same golfer. So he wasn't as good. So he didn't enjoy it as much. So then when that went away, he had nothing. And then he ended up sitting on a couch until the day he died and just watching TV. And that's no way to live. I'm sorry. It's just not. So
no.
Repurpose your life. If it's past retirement, call Jim, repurpose your life to do something meaningful for yourself so that you can continue to create the legacy that you were born to create. That's my opinion. What's yours?
Absolutely. I also do a little bit of work with injured workers in the state of Washington and helping them figure out, because most of these people I'm working with are they're going to what's called pension, medically retired. And some of them are old enough that they'd be retired anyway. But, one guy's like, well, the one thing I can do is drive. And my wife's a cancer survivor. And there are a lot of people that need to go in for chemotherapy and they're going to sit there for whatever. So I'm just going to drive people that don't have drivers to their chemotherapy or their cancer therapy appointments.
That's the coolest thing.
And I'm just like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's meaningful to him because he had to walk his wife through that. So he's now helping other people walk through that.
And I can't think of anything that is better than that, is to also be of service to other people.
Yes.
And that was one of my dad's other things. He didn't want to volunteer. No, if I'm going to work, I'm going to get paid for it. And it's like, so he misunderstood the entire point of the exercise. So,
yeah.
So, but that's the way it goes. Jim, I want you to, first of all, I want you to come back because we need to talk more. And one of these days, Rochelle's going to show up for the entire show. That would be good. And also, tell us more about how somebody can get in touch with you, how you can help them repurpose their life.
Yeah, you bet. So the easiest way is to go to repurposementllc.com. You can get to the connect with me or schedule an appointment. And for those of you that can't, that is a mouthful. I also have Jim Heid Coaching, JIMHEID coaching.com. Will take you to the same website. Easier to spell and easier to remember. And you can schedule a free 30-minute consultation. Love to chat and talk about what your circumstances are and how we can figure out what your strengths are, help you realize that, one of the things we didn't talk about is a lot of that stress, a lot of things that keep us up at night is not aligning with our core values. So figuring out what your core values are, align your life with that, a whole new you.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Understanding who you are, what your values are, and how to live your best life. And that's why we're all here. We're not here just to screw around. We got business to do. Maybe.
All right.
So, Jim, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and have an awesome day. And your patients are lucky to have you. I do have to say.
Well, thank you, Kevin. And yeah, I get to go and dance and listen to 80s music tonight.
Perfect. And we do a music show on Brushwood Media. Rochelle and I do during the week at 6 a.m. your time, so it's a little early for you. But it's so in any event. Thank you, Jim. It's been great fun.
All right, take care.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.